Welcome back to Lists, where we are continuing our countdown of the top 10 fictional rivalries. You're listening to numbers 5 through 1. If you missed 10 through 6, go ahead and check out part 1. You're going to want to catch that. We get some interesting talk in there, some really good stuff.
Yeah, some good choices so far.
My sticker pick is in there.
Yeah.
And you get to hear the story of the basketball poll.
Really? That's what you're going to single out as a highlight?
I feel like it's a highlight.
Yeah, I hate you.
People, all right, we got good stories, and the people want to hear them.
I have nothing to say to that. All right.
I didn't think so. All right, why don't you, rather than go back down that rabbit hole, why don't you go ahead and kick us off, as much as I would love to.
We know you would.
Yeah, take us to number 5, man. What do you got? What's top?
All right, number
top 5.
Yeah, we're getting up there now. Top 10 fictional rivalries.
This is the meat.
Yeah. So for this one, I've got a little bit of a twist.
Are you
it is not
breaking the rules again?
No, I'm not. I
Okay.
promise. It's not between two individuals, though. It's from two groups. Of individuals. It's from a TV show.
Okay.
It recently finished its run, so it is done. It started in 2011.
2011.
And maybe the most popular show of the 2010s.
Game of Thrones.
There you go.
Okay. All right. So,
I know you have not seen.
I have not seen a single episode of. I don't know anything about it, except.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I will do this spoiler free for the weird unicorns out there like you that have not seen it.
I did read the first book.
Hey. Okay. Well, there you go. That's something.
And I thought it was good. I just thought to myself afterwards, I'm like, yeah, I can't commit myself to like 8 more of these. They're really long.
Those are some long books. I recommend the show instead.
I mean, you'd spend like 3 years just reading those.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, my rivalry is House Stark and House Lannister from Game of Thrones.
Boy, number 5, that's coming in high.
Well, I loved Game of Thrones, man. And I know the last season was a little disappointing.
So I've heard.
I don't feel like it was as disappointing as maybe other people do. And it certainly was not enough to sour my opinion of everything that came before it. So
we talked about this on an earlier episode, this idea that people hate endings. Like it's almost like final seasons, final episodes of things just exist for people to complain about.
Admittedly, there are legitimate complaints. It is by far the weakest season.
I was going to say it did sound from, because everybody at work really was into this show, and I heard a lot of conversation about it. And
okay.
Based on what I heard, it did sound like some of these complaints were had some grounding, and these are also English teachers and other assorted smart people whose opinions I trust.
Like, it was definitely the weakest. Not because, like, popular fan outcry, they didn't like how things turned out or something like that. The way things all turned out fit and were fine. It's that they, the final season, almost the final 2 seasons, felt like the Cliff Notes version. Like, they really rushed through it.
That's it. Hearing about it, that's what it sounded like to me. I'm like, boy, they are not taking their time to tell this story. They're just cranking through.
Which, understandably, was going to happen no matter what, just the nature of this type of story and storytelling. Like, when you reach the climax, things come to a head and they accelerate.
That's a good point, actually. That's a good point to make.
Because, you've done meeting all the characters and getting to know them, and now it has to come to a head, so it has to speed up a bit. But yeah, it does it a little bit too much.
Okay, fair.
And loses some of the nuance and the subtlety of the storytelling that was present otherwise throughout. But regardless of that weakness, it is still a fantastic show, and it is my number 5, House Stark, House Lannister. So there are several great houses, great families who are vying for the throne. It's the Game of Thrones. And our protagonists, if you will, of this story are the Starks. And their mortal enemies are the Lannisters. The very first episode of the show, a Lannister pushes a Stark boy out of a tower window, crippling him and almost killing him. And that is the sort of event that sets into motion really the entire series. And Starks and Lannisters scheme against each other and kill each other all the way to the penultimate episode of the entire series. So it is very much throughout. Why it's so high for me, I think, is the way the story evolved. That, I love all the Starks. They are our protagonists. So it's Bran and Jon Snow and Sansa and Arya and Robb. And they're who we spend most time with, I guess, and, who we're rooting for to win. And their enemies are the Lannisters, right? And I will say it's so fascinating how it's so black and white in the beginning. Like, ugh, I hate these bad guys. They're the worst. And slight spoiler, the end of the show, my favorite character, the one that I loved and rooted for the most, was a Lannister. And not the one that we all liked from the beginning, a different one.
Okay.
So it's real, like, you get the other side of the story because it's such a long form and an exhaustive story, that you really see it from their point of view, and then your allegiances almost shift in a way. Not entirely, though. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything. It's just, they're back and forth throughout the whole show. The famous Red Wedding is Lannisters and killing some Starks. And yeah, it's just really good stuff.
Okay. All right. Good family feud is a great way to get a rivalry going.
Oh yeah. And and they a lot of them end up on the same side sometimes at the end. Some of them marry each other.
Shakespearean.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And one of them stays a villain the whole time, although it's one that you still kind of care about and root for. It's really sophisticated, nuanced, character-driven storytelling, at least for the first 6 seasons, for sure. And yeah, it's really good stuff.
Okay,
like you can have your ice zombies and your dragons and your battles and all that, and that's cool and that's fun. But it's the characters that make that show great. And yeah, the Starks and the Lannisters.
Nudity.
Well, that's nice too. Although they really turn that down later in the show.
I was going to say that. From what I understand, that was like a season 1 thing.
Yeah, that was how are we going to sell a literary high fantasy drama? Like, let's throw in as many sex scenes as we can. But then they realized, oh no, wait, this is a great story with great characters. We don't need to do that.
Let's not cheapen it.
Right. So yeah, anyway, Game of Thrones, the Starks and the Lannisters.
All right. Hey, good pick. I haven't seen it, but it is one that has been on my radar for a while. I'll admit, after
hearing about the ending, has soured you on starting it?
The last season, I kind of thought, well, to what extent do I want to invest myself in this, knowing that?
I will say, still worth the journey.
Okay. All right. And that's good enough for me. And I'm the type where I can handle an off season of something, even if it's the end, if that's the price I pay for admission to like
so much great
seasons of something.
Yeah, which is, I think, what this is. And the bad final season is bad because they speed through it, not because the beats are wrong.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I can take the Cliff Notes version that exists and fill it in with my own imagination and be satisfied with the ending.
Right. And the writers of the show at one point past where the writer of the books had gotten to, right?
Yeah, they passed sort of at the start of season 5, but there is still a little bit left. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they were sort of flying in uncharted waters.
Well, they famously had a meeting with George R.R. Martin where he outlined the ending and all the beats to come.
Oh, okay.
And
I didn't know that.
It sort of feels like the writing is almost like, well, we know this has to happen. How do we get there? And maybe they struggled a little bit with the details.
Yeah, well, that'll happen.
Because it's tough to have to tell someone else's story, and they're like, all right, this has to happen, and this has to happen, and you have no more information than that.
Right, and then all of a sudden it's your story to tell.
Yeah. So I do not begrudge them that much.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think that's a very fair-minded and reasonable approach to the whole thing.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, there you go. Game of Thrones number 5. How about it for you?
All right. So I have my third book in a row here at number 5.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, I kind of piled the literary stuff together.
Any chance I've read it?
I know for a fact you've read it.
Oh, nice. All right.
This has already appeared on both of our lists.
Oh.
Yep. This was on your list for one of our episodes. And we only did one episode about books.
Yeah, we did. That narrows me down to 10 choices, and yet I can't quickly think of which one has a rivalry.
Really?
I don't know why. When it's obvious, I can't think of it. That's the problem.
All right. Well,
just let us know. Make me feel like an idiot and say it out loud.
You're going to.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make you, but you're going to.
That's fine.
My number 5 is the rivalry between Jay Gatsby and Tom Buchanan in F. Scott Fitzgerald's 1925 novel, The Great Gatsby, which we did ask, is there anybody who hates The Great Gatsby? And we got a response that...
Apparently one idiot named John... No.
You're going to call him out by name.
No. Well, we went to high school with John.
Right,
I know John.
To be fair to people, we go way back with John too, and John
anyway,
went to high school
he left
with
a
us.
comment. Yeah, he said I hate
went to college
Gatsby.
with me.
Yeah,
but he didn't explain himself. I want to know.
He did not. Dude, you gotta let us know why.
We may actually have to have John on the show for a minute or two to explain his damn self.
Oh, well, he better explain first, because right now he has talked himself right out of the lineup.
Well, sorry, John, you got yourself Matt Damon on our show.
That's right. We ran out of time for John. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough for me to ever look at you the same way, John.
Disappointing.
It is a disheartening moment.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, number 5.
Anyway, at number 5. So, look.
We talked about it at number 1 of our book list. Yeah.
Right. And, I don't want to make the assumption that people have heard that episode yet. Who knows what order they're listening to them in. But I also don't want to. I assume that most people are pretty familiar with the story. But just in case you're not, Jay Gatsby is in love with Tom Buchanan's wife, which is probably going to go ahead and create a rivalry.
Yeah, that's a stickler right there.
Even though Tom Buchanan can't stand his wife and is slumming it with good old Myrtle, who in one of the greatest moments of my teaching career, I asked students on a reading quiz, why did Myrtle run into the street? Right? Because famously, Myrtle runs into the street and, and meets her end.
Spoilers, dude.
Whatever, dude. The book was published in 1925. All right.
Hey, people are still getting to things.
And the student's response, to this day, one of the greatest response I've ever gotten. You ready for this?
I don't think I am, but okay.
Why did Myrtle run into the street? Because she's a dumbass hoe. So they got full credit.
Not entirely wrong. Yeah.
I don't know. I do think that is wrong. Myrtle's not a dumbass
it's
hoe.
very
She's
wrong.
a victim.
I know. It's so tragic, but yeah. All right.
Well,
So
actually, you know what? She is kind of a dumbass. I don't know. I'm not gonna slut shame Myrtle.
yeah, slightly dumb, but
She is a
still,
dumbass. The way she behaves
not cool.
in the apartment she has with Tom clearly indicates some dumbassery. But anyway, the point is, Tom does not love the wife that Gatsby is trying to steal from him, who Gatsby had known before he went to the war and was in love with before he went to the war, and she was in love with him, and they had plans to be together and all of that. Really, the issue with the two of them, and this is very
the
much
money.
Yeah, and this is very much a two sides of the same coin type of rivalry, right?
Yeah.
Both of these guys.
Well, Gatsby doesn't understand how it's not the same side of the coin, but yeah.
Well, neither does Tom.
Well, yeah.
Tom sees himself as permanently and inevitably above Gatsby, and Gatsby sees himself as Tom's equal financially and class-wise, and his better as a human being because his love for Daisy is pure.
Yeah.
The thing Gatsby doesn't realize is that Gatsby does not treat Daisy that much better than Tom does, and that Daisy, Daisy is to Gatsby an object. She is a prize to be won. She is the final jewel in his championship ring. And that's exactly what she is to Tom. She's a status symbol. And so their rivalry is very much, and like you said, with the money, right? So Gatsby does everything in his power to be accepted by the old money class, that has always been wealthy and always will be wealthy, and most of that money is inherited and not earned. And Gatsby's money comes from less than noble places. But then again, we're talking about old money. Most of that came from certainly less than noble places as well.
Some pretty lousy places as well, yeah.
So there's a fundamental, Tom can't stand Gatsby because Gatsby represents to him a threat to his status.
Yeah, like an encroachment upon.
That's exactly it. And it's very much a who the hell do you think you are that you deserve what we have. And it really does speak to discussions that we're currently having as a society about privilege and things like that in ways that make this book extraordinarily relevant nowadays. Because what is the big backlash against what people... I can't stand when people talk about PC culture. It makes me upset because to me that demeans what it's actually trying to accomplish. And I think that rejection of it and that anger towards it comes so much from exactly where Tom Buchanan's coming from.
Inner Tom Buchanan, yeah.
Yeah, it's the inner Tom Buchanan being afraid of losing status. And and therefore doing everything in your power to keep Gatsby in his place.
Well put.
So, it's a phenomenal rivalry. Obviously, it is
a pretty good book.
This was number one. Not to spoil our own pod, but it was both of us picked it number one as our top book you had to read in high school. So. There you go. Tom Buchanan and Jay Gatsby, or James Gatz, depending on how far into the book you've gotten.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Very good.
You're listening to Lists. This podcast is infinitely more fun when we get to interact with you. Send us your lists. Tell us when you agree or disagree with ours. Send us ideas for list topics you want us to take on, and join the conversation. You can reach us directly by emailing us at liststhepod@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all at liststhepod. And remember, you can always find every episode of this podcast, links to all our social media, any polls we put up, any other fun stuff we come up with on our website, liststhepodcast.com. Now, back to our top 10 fictional rivalries.
Okay, so I guess it's me for number 4?
Yep, we're to you for 4.
All right. Well, my number 4, before I reveal what it is my sticker pick of the week.
All right, at number 4. So last week, both of our sticker picks came in low.
Mm-hmm. This one's a little higher for me this week.
This week is coming in high. My sticker pick was actually my number 2.
Until you changed it?
Before I moved it.
Gotcha. All right. Well, so my number 4, my sticker pick, which again is kind of like our Oprah's Book Club sticker. We give it to the one entry out of our list that we most recommend you track down and actually experience if you haven't before. Obviously, we want you to do for any of them, but this is the one we really want to highlight. So for me, this is a movie. It came out in 1988, and it was directed by a favorite director of mine who I haven't had a chance to mention yet on any of our podcasts, so I'm glad I finally get to. David Cronenberg.
What year is this?
88.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen this. Probably not. And it's my sticker pick, so I'm looking forward to you actually watching it soon.
All right. I've got my pen ready.
All right. So my rivalry is between Beverly and Elliot Mantle from Dead Ringers.
Not only have I not seen it, I've never heard of it.
Okay. Dead Ringers. All right. So it stars Jeremy Irons as both Beverly and Elliot, who are twin brothers. And it's so fantastic. It holds up so well. It's all split screen and matte work, and it's so seamless. It's so good. Because they interact with each other. They're like together in every scene, and he's playing both of them.
That's pretty incredible for that time.
Oh, yeah. It's great. Occasionally, if they're hugging or something, and you only see the back of one's head and the front of it, you can kind of figure out it's a double, but the story takes you away. You stop noticing that. And it's crazy because they do not differentiate them, right? They wear the exact same clothes. They're both wearing glasses, same haircut, same actor. And yet within 5 seconds of every new scene, you know exactly which one you're looking at. Like, his performance is incredible. He didn't win an Oscar, shockingly, for this movie. But 3 years later, he won Best Actor for Reversal of Fortune, which, I don't know, it's all right. And in his Oscar speech, he thanked Cronenberg because he knows he should have won for this. So anyway, all right, so quick plot. And this is an interesting, I'm stretching rivalry a little bit, but we'll see what you think about it.
All right. So
Beverly and Elliot Mantle, twin brothers. Movie opens when they're kids. We get a little prologue, and they're a little socially awkward and creepy, and very obsessed about sex from the very beginning. It opens with them as children talking about how the only reason we have sex is because we don't live under the water. Because if we did, we would just lay eggs. But instead, human beings have to internalize the water, and that's why we have sex with each other. Anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, that's one way to look at it.
That's one way. Anyway, they grow up.
For the record, that's not why I have sex.
Yeah. Well, again, they're a little off. But then they grow up and they become like world famous gynecologists, top of their medical field.
Of course.
Of course. So Elliot is the more confident and kind of cynical of the two. And at their clinic, he seduces the women who come there quite often. And then when he tires of them, he passes them on to his shy and passive brother, Beverly.
Okay.
And the women this whole time are completely unaware that there are twins, that there are two of them. Yeah.
That's creepy.
Mm-hmm. So eventually we meet Claire, played by Genevieve Bujold, who is in the movie. She plays a famous actress. And she goes to their clinic and can't have children and sleeps with Elliot. And he's like, hey, bro, you really got to try the movie star. She's great. So anyway, he hooks his brother up, and naturally enough, he falls in love with Claire. And there's a great scene where Elliot reveals to her that there's two of them. And she's shocked by it. It's a funny movie, too. A little bit. Dark humor. It's it's horror, terror, creepy, uneasy, crazy movie. But there's a little humor. And when it's revealed to her that there's two of them, he's like, yeah, I'm the one who fucked you first. And then I passed you on to my brother. And it's just, he just deadpans it. Anyway, shockingly, she agrees to stay with Beverly in a monogamous relationship only with him. Because she falls in love with him. And so then, for the first time in their lives as twins, as these, very much in sync people, they are kind of pitted against each other, right? Because of this woman who comes in between them. And there's this famous dream sequence, actually. And it's kind of like the only part of this movie that really is like body horror, which is what Cronenberg's really known for. But there's a dream sequence where Beverly dreams that he and Elliot are conjoined, and Claire leans over and she bites them apart. But anyway,
Jesus Christ.
So anyway, long story short, Beverly and Claire are together, and he's enabling her prescription drug abuse by writing scripts for them both. And but they're getting along all right until she leaves for a movie, which sends him into a huge depression. Eli tries to fix it and synchronize with Beverly by also taking drugs. Beverly starts going quite insane and orders special gynecological equipment to treat what he feels are all the women coming in now are mutants and they need new equipment. And he's very thrown off now by genitals. And anyway, so it's this rivalry between the brothers, but it's also kind of representative of one person, like the ego and the id.
I see.
And so then this woman comes between them, literally, in the dream. But while this rivalry is going on, they still always love each other and try to help each other in their kind of perverse ways. But they are rivals sort of for her. Beverly genuinely, and Eli, just despite his brother, tricks her into sleeping with him again and stuff like that, pretending to be Beverly. And sort of rivals in the medical field, along with also still being partners in their own clinic. So it's like this perverse mix-up the whole time. A lot of horror, creepy stuff. It's great Cronenberg. It is really creepy and messed up, and I can't recommend it enough. It's great.
All right, this really sounds quite a bit out there. And
it is a little out there.
It's your sticker pick, huh?
I really recommend it. It's very hard to describe. Like when you get in it and you get into the tone and the rhythm of it, it's a magnificent performance, and it's a great movie. It's got a lot going on in it, obviously, has a lot of ideas and stuff. It's dramatizing, and some stuff happens that I have not even talked about, and there's a lot to discover.
And so is this, well, it sounds like it's a combination of the quality of the performance and the depth of the ideas contained in the film.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so high and why it's a sticker pick. Yeah,
and it's because it's this very unique and strange sibling rivalry, if you will.
How did you come across this one?
Well, I like Cronenberg. I've seen a lot of movies. It's relatively popular. I mean, it was nominated for many Oscars.
Really?
Or not Oscars, but lots of awards. It's well thought of. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've never heard of it, but that's not entirely surprising. I've kind of, throughout my life, I feel like I've really written off a lot of movies from the 80s because movies from the 80s, in my experience, do not age well.
Well, you got to watch the right ones.
Yeah, and I guess that's probably true of any age unless you're watching the right ones.
Yeah.
Because right off the top of my head, I'm thinking that there are, like, you idiot, Back to the Future's fine. The Star Wars movies and Indiana Jones movies are fine. Like, shut up. It's not all Miami Vice.
Yeah. You gotta You got to get the right things. So anyway, as this is my sticker pick, I did some research for you and all our listeners. Dead Ringers is ready to watch on Amazon Prime, ready to go. So if you have Amazon Prime, you have Amazon Prime Video. Just look it up, and it's free, ready to play.
Interesting. All right.
And it's like an hour and 55 minutes, and it's great.
All right. Is it going to give people nightmares? Is it that kind of freaky, or is it?
It's more like psychologically disturbing.
Yeah.
Not like jump scary. It's not scary. No.
Right. It's scary in the way that a friendship with you is scary.
Thanks. Yeah, I love the ending. I won't spoil it at all. And yeah, it's a good movie.
Okay.
Great classic scenes. Really all-time performance. And I think it's a relatively good intro into David Cronenberg.
What else has Cronenberg done? Help us out with that.
Oh, so many things. Videodrome, Shivers, The Brood, Scanners. Those are his early, more horror things. But then Videodrome's pretty famous. The Dead Zone. He did a great remake of The Fly. That's better than the original. Dead Ringers. He did Naked Lunch. Existenz, which is one of my favorite sci-fi movies. Let's see. A History of Violence and Eastern Promises, maybe, with Viggo Mortensen. You see either of those?
Those two I've heard of.
Cosmopolis. He adapted the DeLillo. And his most recent movie was Maps to the Stars, which was quite interesting, I thought, too. Any of those? No? I don't think you've maybe seen any of them.
I have seen like 85% of A History of Violence.
Oh, okay.
And I can't remember why I didn't finish it.
Interesting.
I think it was like on TV or something where it was not like a streaming thing that I could just pick up.
Right. The movie Crash, which is quite good. Not the Oscar-winning overrated garbage. The Good Crash.
I was say that's not.
The Good Crash that came out in '96, which is about a subculture of underground people who get sexual gratification from surviving car crashes.
So this guy's got a little bit of a fixation, doesn't he?
Well, that's based from a novel by J.G. Ballard.
No, he still chose to adapt it.
Yeah, he does a lot about sex, a lot of body horror, if you will, a lot of stuff with violence, and but in like a cerebral, interesting way. He's one of my favorite directors, and yeah, Dead Ringers. It's my sticker pick. Everyone should check it out.
All right, sticker pick. I mean, that's bold. I do not know of that movie, but I will make an attempt to check it out.
Hey, you got a week. It's on Amazon. I want it watched by next week. Come on.
Oh, jeez. You're going to give me homework?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All right, great. You got to read Les Mis, not the abridged version either.
No, I gotta read Sonny's Blues at least.
Yeah, Sonny's Blues. Oh my gosh, so good.
All right. So anyway, that's my number 4.
All right.
Bev and Ellie from Dead Ringers. All right, so your turn.
Okay. Number 4 for me is pretty recent. I know that you and I have come to feel differently about this show.
Oh.
And I think you're just so incredibly wrong about it. But so number 4 for me is is Walter White and Hank Schrader from the AMC series Breaking Bad.
All right, so I'm just not going to let you slander me like that and leave it hanging.
I don't feel like that's slander.
Slightly. I simply said I don't think it's one of the 10 greatest shows of all time. I didn't say it wasn't good.
And you were right about that. It's one of the 5 greatest shows of all time.
I'm saying it's a good show. It's just not that high for me.
Oh, but you're so very wrong.
I don't think I am. Time will bear me out.
No, it won't.
20 years from now, I'll be proven right, as I always am. Anyway,
and
continue.
You know what I like about this is that I have it actually right after Gatsby, because to me, Breaking Bad is is our times Gatsby. I think it is that good.
Oh my goodness! Don't slander Gatsby like that.
Yeah, all right. You watch. We'll see which one of us is right.
And I'm interested why this rivalry is so high for you, because I don't know if it's much of one. Like,
oh, sure it is.
But it's not direct for so much of the series.
I think it is direct for much of the series.
One-sidedly, but it can't be a rivalry if it's only one direction.
Disagree.
Okay. All right, anyway, it's your pick. Go ahead.
All right, thanks. Appreciate the permission.
You're welcome.
So, people who have watched the show, all right, well, I guess quick summary of Breaking Bad for people who have not watched the show. Walter White is a high school chemistry teacher who is struggling.
Becomes a meth drug lord.
Yeah, he's struggling to support his family and feels very much like a failure. And a lot of that stems from the fact that he had he's a brilliant chemist who had this brilliant idea many years before, and for personal reasons decided to leave the group he was working with, and they went on to form a multi-million-dollar company with the ideas that he helped develop. So he's an unrecognized genius who is treated like a Joe Schmo by everybody in his life. And the show does make a big point. And this is why I think in 2019, the show is kind of regressing a little in how it's, how much credit it gets, is because we've all kind of got a lot of fatigue of the emasculated white man story, right? Like we all feel so bad for you, right?
It's
funny.
That's not one of my issues with the show.
Yeah, I don't think that's where your criticism of it comes from at all. I know that's true, but it came along when there were a rash of those types of shows, I guess is what I'm saying. And I would argue, my argument is this one will stand the test of time and will be the one that emerges as...
I would agree with that, yeah.
So Walter White is... he is married, and his brother-in-law, his wife's sister, is married to a man who is a police officer. He's a DEA agent.
That's right.
And so he's also kind of he's an alpha male, right?
Yes.
And he does things like, he's like the cool uncle to Walt's son. And the son kind of looks up to him and sees him as the cooler figure and doesn't respect his dad in the same way, even though he loves him.
Right.
And, Walt feels very much that Hank is constantly rubbing in his face how much more of a man he is than Walt is. And, and this goes again towards the sense Walt has that his brilliance is not being fully recognized in his career and by the people in his personal life. So in the same way, all of his power is stripped away from him, and Hank is kind of the representative of that. Now, is Hank antagonistic in doing that? Are his intentions that way? I think that's where your question of whether or not this is a rivalry comes in. And I think that's probably fair. And so to that extent, this is a stretch, right? A little bit of a stretch.
A little. I don't want to harp on it too much. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you're right. It is very one-sided at first. And Hank is... the development of Hank's character is really good to me, because Hank, as it starts out, he's really only that. He's just that, like, that alpha male...
I love the stuff after he gets shot and he's doing the minerals, and it's good stuff for Hank.
Yeah, because he's terrified of going back to work. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, Hank really has a great arc. And as Walt gets stronger, Hank gets
better than Walt's.
Dude, both. You are out of your damn mind.
I'm happy to die on this hill. It's
that
fine.
is one of the great character arcs of all time. Oh man. All right, we're gonna have to duke this out sometime. We may have to have like an all Breaking Bad pod. Are you serious right now?
Top 10 problems with Breaking Bad? Okay.
No. Top 10 arguments to be had about it. I'll do that. We'll engage in it.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, so as Walt gets stronger, Hank gets weaker.
Yeah.
And then they both kind of achieve a kind of stasis, a kind of balance.
Yeah.
And really what it boils down to is Hank is chasing around this new meth dealer in town that nobody can figure out, where he's coming from, and he's got the strongest and the best stuff and all of that. And he is having dinner with him every night because it's his brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And
I will say, in terms of it being a rivalry, I guess Hank unknowingly is rivals with Heisenberg, not knowing it is his brother-in-law. So
that's true. So he doesn't know that. He knows that he's rivals with somebody, but he doesn't know that it's a person sitting right under his nose until he's in a bathroom reading some poetry.
Yeah. That's right.
Such a great moment. And then the scene in the garage, the tread lightly scene.
That one's okay.
No.
I do like that cliffhanger in the bathroom, though. Talk about a cliffhanger. That was like the halfway point right there. So there was a few months in between there.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
And then you have the great moment where when they're out in the desert and Walt is handcuffed and screaming and it really flips back to what it was because Hank's very strong in that moment and Walt is not. At least in our
you think for a minute.
Yeah, well, true.
Yeah.
That's the thing about Walt is boy does he go on a tear proving people wrong about him.
Yeah, unrealistically so.
Oh, bull. That was the great thing about the show is they make you buy it.
They didn't make me buy it. It felt like a stretch. It felt like season 4 and 5, it got a little cartoony. He became a little too good at what he was doing because they wanted, badass Heisenberg. When I don't know, I never bought it.
Well, part of that is intentional. Is because he is wearing it as a costume. It is cartoony.
And that part works. I just some of the actual plotting, it was hard for me.
I can think of maybe one or two plotting things where I'm like, all right, that's pretty far-fetched, but I will go with it because I'm enjoying the show so much.
And I did too. Like, it's like the 15th greatest show I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's just down a slight peg for those reasons for me.
It's all right. You're allowed to be wrong.
Okay, fair enough.
You're allowed to be wrong. And you are.
Fair enough. All right.
But yes, all the way up at number 4 for me is Walter White and Hank Schrader, because I just love that the way that dynamic just flips back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and that they're chasing each other with so much unknown. And
no, that is cool. Yeah.
It's cleverly done. It's cleverly drawn out. The fact that they, on a personal level, they like each other, and they have no idea.
Yeah,
it's just great. It's a good. I don't know. I can't speak highly enough of Breaking Bad.
Number 4, Breaking Bad. I like it.
All right, I'm glad you like it.
I do.
All right. So what do you got at 3? Top 3 now.
Yeah, we're getting up there. All right. So my number 3 is a movie. I have a lot of movies. I know. Shocking. And I've mentioned it before, I think, on a previous podcast.
Okay.
It didn't make one of my lists, but it was mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, it is from a 1984 movie. Another movie from the 80s that you need to see.
Gonna say, got a lot, all up in the 80s today.
All up in the 80s, apparently, by Milos Forman.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
Milos,
of course.
Yeah, all right.
Milos Forman.
Very familiar with his work.
Well, you should be.
Tell us a little bit about this Milos Forman, please.
He's a great director. So this movie from '84 won 8 Oscars.
Jeez.
It is still, to this day, the most recent film to have more than one nominee in the Best Actor category. So this movie had 2 people nominated for the Oscar for Best Actor.
And it's 1984?
84. Hasn't happened since. And those 2 actors are the rivalry.
Have I seen it?
I don't know. I couldn't tell from how you reacted to when I mentioned it before.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I'll just say it. The rivalry is between Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and Antonio Salieri from Amadeus.
Okay. No, I have not seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen Amadeus? Okay.
No.
Oh, you really should. You'd like it a lot. Okay, so I realize Mozart and Salieri were real people. But I'm not breaking any rules. This is heavily and almost completely fictionalized.
Okay.
The relationship between the 2 of them. I think in real life they were like kind of friends and like cross paths a little bit. So not at all like the movie.
Okay. So they took extensive liberties.
Yeah, extensive liberties. So F. Murray Abraham plays Salieri. He won the Oscar. And Tom Hulce plays Mozart. And that rivalry extended to the Oscar talk.
I was going to say, there's a rivalry right there.
Yeah. All right. So the plot of the movie, kind of the structure of it, is that an elderly Salieri, in his 70s, 80s, excellent old man makeup on F. Murray Abraham. I don't know if it's ever been better. Confesses to the murder of Mozart and attempts to kill himself by slitting his throat. And so some servants take him to a mental asylum where a priest comes to visit him and implores him to confess. And so he's like, all right, I'll tell you the story of how I murdered Mozart. And so the story is told in flashback, right? He's telling the story, lots of voiceover. And we cut back often to see him telling the story in the asylum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Salieri was a composer. And I'll just talk about the fictionalized versions here. He was in real life too. But okay, in the movie, he was a composer and a great one. At the top of his game, considered one of the best, and was the house composer for, and I'm forgetting the monarch, the King of Austria, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, he's the top. And he hears about this German guy named Mozart who's coming to Vienna. And he's like, okay, let me see what he's about. And he first runs into Mozart by just seeing his music on the page. And he's looking at it and he's going, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And then he turns around and this brash, idiotic, obnoxious kid comes in, and it's Mozart. And he's like, what? No. So he's pissed off immediately, right? And it's this incredible one-sided rivalry because Salieri...
Who plays Mozart in it?
Tom Hulce. Hasn't been in much else that you would know him from.
Okay.
So Salieri, he never lets on his disdain for Mozart. He pretends to be his friend and whatever. So he is so envious of Mozart. Salieri describes himself as being gifted enough to recognize that Mozart is an absolute generational genius, but not good enough to come close to matching him.
Mm.
And Salieri is like financially successful. Like his operas and his symphonies get tons of money and praise. And Mozart's are not well attended and everything. And he's like, oh, I'm not as good as you. And he's like, oh my goodness, you're so much better than me. I hate you.
Oh,
right?
So it's a quiet rivalry.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how you've always felt about me.
Oh my Lord. All right. You're such an idiot. All right.
Oh, no, come on. You got to give me that one. That was good.
That was pretty funny. All right. That was pretty funny. I want to highlight some cool scenes. All right. So there's a great scene where Mozart's wife Constance brings Salieri all his music that he's written down. And she's like, do you think maybe we could sell these? Are these any good? I don't know. Can you tell me? And then it's wonderful. It's Murray's face as he stares at the pages, and then the music on them is playing for us. And it's a combination of him crying at the sheer beauty and majesty of the music while fuming in furious anger, like simultaneously. Like he's like tears in his eyes, angrily swipe the page to the next one, and the new music kicks in, and it's right. Great scene. And then, so anyway, part of the plot is like he secretly is attending Mozart shows because he's a big fan. And then he schemes. He poses as an anonymous client who wears a mask and sort of implies that he's Mozart's dead father. And he pays him to write music for him for the plan then to steal it. Anyway, I don't want to spoil any more than that. It's this amazing rivalry, this jealousy, this man is a heathen, and like the man doesn't match the work, so he despises him for that. And then he's very much religious. He's, blaming, why would God give his voice to this asshole, right? And why would he curse me with not enough skill to create music that beautiful, but just enough to realize how good it is, right?
To have to be tortured by it.
Yeah, so it's this absolute, it's just a fantastic movie. I can't recommend it enough. So Mozart and Salieri from Amadeus.
Okay. All right. I mean, that sounds like a great pick, actually. The way you described it, it made me want to go see it.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I mean, the music's pretty good in the movie. And it's not bad.
Would you say it's infuriatingly good?
It's pretty damn good. But no, it's really great. And it's so much more. I mean, it's a 3-hour fictionalized biopic of like classical musicians. Like, could that sound more boring? And it is so like, it's a movie, but it's a page turner. Like, it is really fun to watch.
Suspenseful.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Okay. All right. Hey. I mean, it's one of those movies I imagine most people have heard of.
Yeah, but how many have actually seen it? And I'm telling you, I have, and it is definitely worth it. You will really enjoy it.
Okay. All right.
So anyway, that's my number 3.
I'll give that one a shot. I do like good stories about rivals and good stories about artistic rivals too, in particular.
I'll send you the YouTube clip of when his wife shows up and he's reading them.
Yeah,
it's
please do.
It's
I would like to
3
see
minutes long, and it'll sell you.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good. Okay. So I'm at 3.
Yeah, you give us number 3.
Okay. Now, I think going into this, we both, without having talked about it, assumed that we were going to have the same number 1.
Oh, but it's at 3 for you?
It's at 3 for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought about maybe moving it down. Yeah.
And the reasons, gosh, it's almost like it's a 3-way tie at 1 for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I don't want to cheap out and say that. So I did put them in order.
Okay.
And so let's just say that the space between these in my heart is negligible.
Gotcha.
We're talking about a hair, if that. So at number 3 for me is the rivalry between, you go ahead and say it. You know this one.
Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader.
Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, right? Look, everybody knows this one. I'm not going to spend a ton of time explaining Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. I guess what I'll explain is how does that end up being number 3? Because is it the most sophisticated?
Maybe not.
Maybe not. But I mean, it's
as
very
powerful in its simplicity. Yeah.
it's very boilerplate hero's journey, right? And I think everybody knows that about Star
Wars. Honestly, it's maybe a little bit of a stretch to call it a rivalry, too.
Yeah, maybe. It's pretty one-sided. Luke is
more like Vader enemies than rivals.
Yeah, they're more enemies than rivals. Because they're not competing for anything that's the same.
Yeah. But we haven't really done that throughout our list anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think we established that as a standard. So we'll just keep running with it.
Sure.
Anyway, this is, I would argue that as far as heroes' journeys go, you'd be pretty hard-pressed to find a better example than Star Wars. A better executed demonstration of these classical tropes than Star Wars. I think these are things that have existed since the Odyssey and the Iliad, and well before that even. And what George Lucas was able to do prior to becoming a terrible writer was write something that just captured the hearts and minds of millions and millions and millions of people in generations. And I was one of them. And, you and I have talked a lot about some of the psychology behind our deep personal connection to Star Wars and to the character of Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
And, I've always told you in jest, but also as this being 100% true, that when I was a kid, I used to sit there and try as hard as I could for like hours at a time to use the Force.
Yeah.
Like I was convinced that if I just tried hard enough, like I could, and I knew it was made up, but I was convinced that if I just tried hard enough, I could get it. And I think a part of it is that Luke Skywalker and the characters that you get in a hero's journey, he's this farm boy who has big dreams, but is held back. And there's no emotion I connected to more as a sick child than the feeling that there were bigger things out there for me, but that I was being held back. And that was probably the central emotion of my childhood, was the sense that this wasn't it, that there was bigger for me. But Luke Skywalker is near and dear to my heart, and that rivalry, that battle, between him and Vader, and the quest and the saving of Vader is something that just it's so well executed. I mean, it's brilliant. It's brilliantly executed. Again, we've said this before, and we've said it over and over again, and we've even said that it could probably be the motto for the show, is that some things are classics for a reason. Yeah. There's a reason that Star Wars is as popular as it is. No matter what your
opinion is of any of the other Star Warses, the three with Luke and Vader from 77 to 83 are classics for a reason and created this massive empire for a reason.
Absolutely. And that, you may not personally like them because you don't like sci-fi or whatever. And that's totally legit. Nobody's saying you have to, but I think it's pretty damn impossible to deny that they are masterful works of storytelling. And not only that, but especially considering when they were created, masterpieces of technological innovation.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So anyway,
all right. Yeah,
that's number 3 for me.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Lists. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you like what we're doing, please leave us a rating and a review, 5 stars. It really helps us grow and get the word out, especially since this podcast is still very new. Thanks in advance, and now let's get back to our top 10 fictional rivalries.
Take me to 2.
All right, number 2. Another movie. This one from 2007.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Have I seen it?
Yeah, you have. Yeah, I'm sure. Why number 2? The performances, for sure. The movie itself, which is amazing. And I really love how these two characters, are rivals as characters and then also as representative of certain ideas, specifically American ideas. I find especially fascinating.
Is it a Scorsese movie?
It is not. No.
Okay, because I was thinking of something.
It is, and I'm going to have to do a little impression here, and it's going to be bad, but I'm going to do it anyway. And when I say the line, you'll know what it's from.
Oh,
you ready?
Yeah.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
I was actually, the reason I asked Scorsese is I was thinking of another Daniel Day-Lewis performance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of Gangs of New York, and I was like, there's no way he put Gangs of New York that high.
No, it was an honorable mention, though.
Was it? Oh. Mm-hmm. See, I just rewatched it, and I thought I was not.
Oh, I haven't in a long time.
Yeah, I don't think it holds up very well.
Too bad to hear. Oh, that's too bad. All right. Anyway, Daniel Plainview and Eli Sunday from There Will Be Blood by Paul Thomas Anderson.
That was one that was painful for me to leave off. That would probably be my 10A or 10B.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So very quick summary.
I drink your milkshake. So good.
I drink it up. It's so good. So Daniel Day-Lewis plays Daniel Plainview, who is an oil man. He meets a young man named Paul Sunday, who says, hey, come out to California, our farm, there's oil there. And so he pays him like $10K. Or no, he goes out there, he's like, oh my goodness, there's a lot of oil here. Then Paul's twin brother Eli, both played by Paul Dano, requests like $10,000 for the church where he is a pastor. And eventually they agree on like $5,000, and so he gives him the land and he starts drilling. And he makes a ton of money, and they butt heads, and it's capitalism and organized religion, and it's
America.
Yeah, that's right. Like I said before, I revealed. And there's so many great scenes. There's the one where
scene in the church. Oh my god!
I'm getting there. So
that might be the best piece of acting I've ever seen.
It's pretty good. So there's the scene before that when he's about to start up the first well, and Eli comes like the morning before and saying, "You need to introduce me, and I'm going to bless this well." Right. And then the time comes, and instead of doing that, Daniel just talks, and he uses this little girl as a prop and totally shuts out Eli, right? And then production begins, and then there's this accident, a gas blowout, and it deafens Daniel's quote-unquote son, HW. And Eli blames the disasters on the well not being properly blessed. And then he asks Daniel, hey, where's that $5,000 you owe me? And Daniel responds about like beating him and humiliating him. And then Eli takes it out on his family. He like beats and attacks his father for trusting Daniel. And anyway, it's the church. He gets it built, and a character finds out that Daniel commits a murder, and he basically makes him go to the church to be baptized and repent, where Eli's in charge, and he humiliates and strikes him and makes him confess to abandoning his son, and that's the "I've abandoned my boy" scene, which is amazing.
And just the arrogance he has as he's kneeling there at first.
It's such disdain for...
Yeah, just the giant smile on his face.
Okay, Eli, I'll kneel down.
Yeah, you tell me what to say. And then it just, as he starts talking about his son, it just falls apart. And the look, I have never seen a look of hatred more pure than the look he gives him in that scene. And to have that be acted is astonishing, because you're literally sitting there in the theater going, holy shit, he's about to murder him.
He hates him and everything he stands for.
Like, to the core of his being.
Yeah.
And wow. I thought I think you chose the wrong line from that speech, because when Eli comes to him about it and he does the milkshake example, My favorite part is the extended drainage.
Drainage, yeah, I love drainage too.
It's explain. Eli just doesn't get it. What do you mean, Daniel? What do you mean?
He's like, I have a straw over here. Yeah.
And you have a milkshake. And I have a straw, and you have a straw. But mine reaches. Oh,
yeah. It's so good.
It's so like he knows that he's got him.
He knows he's won.
He just takes it and he caresses.
And I think it's so good that at the end, when they come together, that he first makes Eli denounce his faith and call himself a fraud and that God is a superstition and all that stuff. He makes him say it earnestly and then goes, oh, yeah, by the way, I can't help you. You just said all that for nothing because I drank your milkshake.
It's one of the all-time great boss moves, but like it's also just like you're sitting there and you have these kind of conflicted feelings when you're watching it because there's a part of you going, holy crap, that's amazing. Like he just punked him so bad. And then there's a part of you going, holy shit, that's the most evil thing I've ever seen.
This man is evil. This way of thinking is evil. This is why our country is broken.
Right. And just like, he doesn't want to just hurt him. He doesn't want to just make him go away. He wants to destroy him. That's a great pick.
Absolutely. Thank you. Like I said, I really like it's the characters back and forth. It's the performances. The movie itself is so great, and I like how in such a like simple yet so still complex way, the way those characters represent what they represent, and the kind of rivalry of those ideas is also so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's done with such a deft hand. You really don't even. Yeah, you don't feel it. You don't feel that you're being fed that. It's the characters are so well drawn as actual human beings that they don't behave as stand-ins for ideologies or representatives of some aspect of society the way that you get in Orwell or Ayn Rand. Yeah, that's right. I said it.
That's fair. So that's my number 2. There Will Be Blood.
Yeah. Oh, God, now that we talked about it.
Should have made your list.
I want to make a revision.
That's all right. It made the podcast at least.
I haven't seen it in a long time. And I
rewatched it earlier this year. Holds up just fine.
Does it really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know what's interesting, though? I watch Gangs of New York.
Okay.
Because it
doesn't hold up.
Interesting. It feels very heavy-handed.
To be fair, I thought it was very flawed when I saw it the first time.
Okay, that's true.
Like I'd put it somewhere in the mid-70s out of 100 or something from my memory.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Okay. I love that performance, though.
Daniel Day-Lewis is excellent in it. But
the scene where he comes to him at night and he's sitting there wrapped in the flag, like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, the wrapped in the flag is a little bit heavy for me, but
yeah, but he's so good, I don't care.
But he's so good that you buy it. Yeah. He is. When he taps on his eye with the knife, yeah, no, he's. But
yeah, a pretty messy movie. Yeah,
it really is, and
it's
like
a bit of a mess.
Very, very heavy-handed, and I think so much of that is that Scorsese was like, I'm going to make the post 9/11 movie. And boy, remember the ending of it, the final shot?
Well, yeah, that was a little obnoxious.
That was him saying, I'm going to make the ultimate New York post 9/11 movie, and then I'm going to make sure that you know that I tried to. It's like, we got it, Marty. We got it a long time ago, man. Just chill. But Daniel Day-Lewis, he can do no wrong. Has he ever been bad in anything?
No.
Has he ever been mediocre in anything?
No.
All right, there it is.
Not that I've seen.
I mean, is he retired now?
No, he just did Phantom Thread a couple years ago for Paul Thomas Anderson, which you haven't seen, which is insane.
I know, I haven't seen that. But I thought that was going to be his last movie. Phantom Thread.
Well, he said he's been retired, but he'll come back if it's right.
I think he says that all the time. I think it's just so we'll stop getting calls.
And it's interesting how I think correctly pointing out that Scorsese was trying to make the great 9/11 post 9/11 movie, but I think Spike Lee had already done it with 25th Hour. But that's just me.
I haven't seen it, so I can't comment.
Gotcha.
I have heard you say many times that movie is excellent.
Subtly a 9/11 movie, and much better about it.
Yeah.
Not a 9/11, a post 9/11 movie. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm super curious. These personal top 2 choices. I can't wait.
All right. Yeah. So I'm going to tell you this. As we have been going through this list, I have moved these 2 back and forth between number 1 and number 2 4 different times.
Oh, okay.
And I'm about to move them again.
Well, none of us will ever know. So
yeah, I'm moving. This was at number 1 until this very moment. I'm moving it to number 2.
All right. Is this the one that was originally your sticker, or is that the other one?
That's the other one, which is now my number 1. Okay. So my number 2 is one that we have talked about, which is Jack Shephard and John Locke from Lost. And
I knew it was coming.
So that's way, way up there. And as you just heard me say, it was number 1 multiple times as the recording of this podcast has happened. All right. Those of you who know me know that I am not even shy about saying it. My son, Jack, was born in 2010, which is the year Lost ended.
Yep.
And my son, Jack, is named after Jack Shephard.
He most definitely is, yeah.
That is how much I love that character.
Yeah.
Now, you want to hear something awesome that made my entire life last year?
What's that? What?
So Jack plays baseball, as you know, and Little League baseball, and he had a teammate whose name was JD, and his last name was Locke.
Oh, nice.
And I come to find out
they don't get along.
No. Wow. Oh. The J stands for John.
Oh, John Locke.
So my son, Jack, who's named after Jack Shephard, has played baseball for 2 years in a row with a John Locke.
Nice. You got to change your last name to Shepherd, dude.
But they get along really, really well.
Oh, that's too bad. No.
Like they're good friends. It's amazing, and I love it.
Nice.
But anyway, yeah, I tried explaining that to the boys, and they didn't get it. But someday, when I gloriously reveal Lost to them, they will understand. But all right, so this rivalry, why is it number 2 for me? Everything we said before.
Yeah.
And why is Jack Shephard ahead of Luke Skywalker? Because
that makes sense. Yeah.
As a grown man, I relate more to the complexities of Jack Shephard than I do to the I'm not going to say Luke Skywalker's one-dimensional, but usually on a hero's journey, you don't have a character who is self-destructive in the ways that Jack Shephard is.
Yeah. Jack Shephard is such a wonderfully flawed character.
Yeah.
As are a lot of the characters on that show. Like, that's what makes Lost so great, is you get to know those people so well, and that means warts and all, and yet you still love them. Yeah.
And that's one thing I always say to people who quit Lost after 2 or 3 episodes. Like, this is not a show that's about an island that has a smoke monster on it.
Yep.
This is a show about people. For me, John Locke is a beautiful and fascinating character in all of his ways. He's a man who has been wronged and it's not because he's a bad person. It's in fact it's
too
because
good
he's
of a
such
person.
a good person.
Yeah.
And that's why the rivalry works to me is because you love both of those characters.
Yes, you really do.
You really love both of those characters. And
or at least
like
I did.
I completely disagree with most of what John Locke believes.
Yeah, but you love and respect that he believes it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like you said, those scenes down in the bunker with the button.
Yeah, those are good stuff.
You're talking about some of the deepest philosophical questions we've ever had. And here's this show that comes along and dramatizes it perfectly with these characters who are fully realized, fully human, completely interesting, and completely captivating in every way. And like you said, so many of the characters on the show are just flawlessly done. I mean, it's really a remarkable achievement. And
I agree.
Yeah, I just Jack Shephard to me represents just so many things that I value and believe in and appreciate and struggle with and all of that. And I think are very human struggles. And that's why I named my son after him. And that's why...
there you go.
That's why that rivalry is up there, because John Locke, to me, is just the other side of Jack Shephard's coin.
I like it. This is a very pro-Lost podcast.
You're damn right it is.
Don't be
fronting on us with any anti-Lost stuff.
That's right. And to everyone who completely misread the ending, no, they were not dead the whole time. Try again.
Yes, and they very, very clearly state that.
I know. I don't understand how anyone can possibly think that.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. I guess I should do my number one. So my number one, obviously, is Edward and Jacob from the Twilight series. No.
That was a bubble pick for me.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's my number one by far.
You know what? You should be ashamed that you even had the ability to name two characters.
I had to Google their names. I had no fucking idea.
So you Googled your joke.
I did. I had to research my joke because I knew that little about it.
You know what? I appreciate you putting the work in.
Thank you. Anyway, so my number one is Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. Yeah, I just like the rivalry. Right? Obi-Wan tells him, yeah, this dude killed your father. And then he sees that guy kill Obi-Wan, his mentor. And then he gets trained up by this other mentor to how to fight him and defeat him, only to learn out, oh, no, that is your father. Right? And so
he didn't kill your dad. He kind of is your dad.
Yes. So I love how that kind of dynamic flips on its head there at the end of Empire.
It's an unbelievable twist.
I mean, obviously. And not just because it's the shocking twist reveal, it's because of what it means for our protagonist, right?
Absolutely.
That's why it's so good. So anyway, we've talked about this.
And it adds a nice dimension to the rivalry, too.
Right. So since we've talked about this, I thought I would take a quick moment here to go on a rant, if that's okay.
Please. You know I love a good rant.
I want to talk about the hate for The Last Jedi and how it got the character of Luke wrong, which it did not.
Go for it.
All right. So
because I agree with you on this.
Okay. It got some other things wrong, but not that. So I think the general thrust of the argument behind The Last Jedi ruined Luke Skywalker is that, from what I gather, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but it's that, Luke wouldn't be a pussy hiding on this planet. He would be fighting, and he's infallible. He turned Vader. Why would he try to kill Kylo? Like blah blah blah. No. Okay. First of all, Luke was never infallible. He made tons of mistakes. He ran off before his training was completed and got his hand cut off, for goodness sakes. And
he damn near turned to the dark side in The Return of the Jedi.
That's right. So for him to have a momentary pause where he maybe for a second considered, what if I just cut him right now while he's sleeping?
It's fully in character.
That's fully in character, and it's a very cool little Rashomon moment, and I think it's pretty well done. But this whole idea that Luke should be a badass, he should be out there fighting. Did you not see Return of the Jedi? So we have this trilogy and this epic showdown between rival Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, and they fight. He's a badass. He beats him in the laser sword fight, and he beats the bad guy, his rival, but that is not his victory. That is almost him losing, right? Mm-hmm. The way Luke wins is by
throwing it away.
Throwing away the saber, refusing to fight, being a pacifist, and defeating the dark side through the love of his father.
By being willing to die, too.
Yes.
His understanding in that moment was that the Emperor was going to kill him and that he was okay with that because it meant not turning to the dark side.
And to me, that Luke, his behavior makes total sense in The Last Jedi. Like, that is the Luke that the entire original trilogy built him into becoming. Anyway, rant over.
That was actually a very calm rant.
Sorry.
Listen, I like Star Wars, along with many other very, time-tested, time-worn fictional universes, has an element of its fan base that is just extraordinarily toxic and disgusting.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that you could do that will satisfy them.
I know, that was all on deaf ears. I know.
No. I'm not saying this as a criticism to you. I'm saying this as a criticism of them.
Well, I know.
There's nothing they could have done with Luke Skywalker that would have made these people happy. Not a single thing.
Yeah.
Because what they're incapable of understanding is you are not going to experience Luke Skywalker as a 40-year-old man the way you experience him as a 10-year-old, you dumbass.
Well, that too. Yeah.
Even though you're still living with your mother, you're not going to have the same emotional experience.
We don't have to generalize, but yeah.
I mean, look.
I know.
If the shoe fits.
Yeah. I hear you.
If the shoe fits, shove it up your ass.
Yeah, there you go. But anyway.
I cannot stand that element of Star Wars fans. I really can't. Just shut the fuck up and enjoy the movie.
Yeah. Anyway, it's my number one. It was
that way with the Solo movie, too.
Yeah.
Which was just a nice, fun popcorn action flick. And people just lost their minds for dumb. It's not Harrison Ford. Well, no shit. Who is?
Yeah, no one. Yeah, I'm with you. Anyway, we've talked about it. So Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, number one.
That's a great one. I totally, I said,
nostalgia, perhaps. Maybe it shouldn't be that high, but I just did it anyway.
And I completely appreciate it.
Okay.
And we went into this, I think, both of us thinking we were going to have that same number one. But we don't.
Well, yeah. Then you tricked me. You rope-a-doped me, and you left me hanging. But that's okay.
I think I tricked myself. I'm wondering if you can figure out my number one.
Oh, yeah, I know.
With Luke Skywalker and Vader and Jack Shepard off of.
No, I'm at a bit of a loss.
Cool Hand Luke.
Oh, of course, I know.
Cool Hand Luke. And I was going through it and I was thinking to myself, who's the rivalry with here? And so obviously the captain, the guy who runs the jail.
Right.
But there are also all the bosses, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, that's not who the rivalry is with in Cool Hand Luke.
Tell us.
Luke's rivalry is with God.
That's right. Excellent answer. I agree completely.
So my number one fictional rivalry of all time is Cool Hand Luke and God.
There you go.
And
so give us a quick summary of what Cool Hand Luke is.
Okay. So Cool Hand Luke is based off of a novel by a guy who really only wrote two novels and really not much recognition as a literary figure. So that's irrelevant. It's a Paul Newman movie, which should be all you need to hear.
There you go.
And also it's my number one, which should be all you need to hear.
Well, no, we need more information for that.
Sam, all right, fair enough. So, Cool Hand Luke is about a guy. It opens, you see a guy very, very drunk walking down the street with something, a big old piece of equipment on his shoulder. And he starts taking this thing and he's drinking a beer while he does it and drunkenly walking around parking meters. And he's cutting the heads off of parking meters and they fall to the ground and he's not even picking them up. And the cops come and come out of the car to arrest him. And he just gets this big old smile on his face. And then the credits roll. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it is the story of a man who is lost in life. It doesn't have any kind of purpose. And so he ends up in a jail, in a what do you call those jails where you have to work?
Chain gang.
Yeah, he ends up on a chain gang in one of those prisons, right? A Florida prison camp. Mm-hmm. And he is different from everyone else. And when he gets there, he's got this kind of aloofness to him that makes him immediately a target for some of the people there. And Luke becomes a little bit of a folk hero right off the bat because the biggest guy there challenges him to a fight. And Luke gets his ass kicked.
Yeah.
But he does something very important during this fight. He keeps punching this big guy until the big guy literally knocks him out cold. Yeah. And the big guy has beaten him so badly that people start walking away because they don't want to watch it anymore. And finally, the big guy says to him, just lay down. And Luke crawls up to him and says, you're going to have to kill me. And the guy punches him again. Luke gets back up. And the guy kneels down in front of him and says, lay down, you're beat. And Luke lifts up this flaccid arm and punches him in the face with it. And so the guy just clobbers him and knocks him out for good and then carries him in and lays him down. And after that, they're best friends.
Yep.
Because he respects him. But anyway, it is the story of Luke's experience in jail. And it is really, it's a work of existentialism. Everything in the movie is symbolically about the human experience. There's the great scene where Luke is told by one of the bosses, the guy comes out and he says, Luke, this ditch here is filled with, this is boss whatever's ditch. It's all filled with your dirt. What's your dirt doing in his ditch? And he hands him a shovel and makes Luke dig essentially a grave. And then as soon as Luke gets down until it's over his head, the guy comes out and he says, now why in the hell's your dirt all over the boss's yard?
Yeah.
He says, I'm sorry, boss. He crawls out. He puts all the dirt back in. And then he comes out and he says, I thought I told you to get your dirt out of boss's ditch.
Yeah.
And he digs it again. And so obviously this is a metaphor for human existence, perhaps a pessimistic one.
Slightly, yeah.
But the crux of the movie is that Luke keeps trying to escape. And he keeps getting caught and brought back. And every time he tries to escape, they make it worse for him when he comes back. Mm. And that never stops him. He keeps going. He keeps going. He keeps going. And that resilience is inspiring to the other people who are imprisoned there. And I don't want to ruin it because it's such a good movie. Don't. Yeah, I'm not going to ruin it. But Luke has this great scene in a church where he gets down on his knees and, basically just asks God, like, all right, well, I'm here. You got me. You finally got me on my knees talking to you. Let's hear it. What do you got? Kind of just straight up calls him out. And it gets real, real quiet. And Luke has this great line. He says, yeah, that's what I thought. It's just a brilliant movie. It's so enjoyable. And Paul Newman's phenomenal in it. It's funny. It's heartwarming. It's got excellent performances. It's a classic film. It's tough to say if it's Paul Newman's best performance or not. it's my favorite Paul Newman performance.
Mm.
It's it's got hilarious scenes, it's got ridiculous scenes, it's got inspiring scenes, and like I said, every single thing you need to know about life and how to live it is in Cool Hand Luke. Every single thing you need to know about life and how to live it might be in that boxing scene.
Yeah.
I always joke with people when Jack gets to be about 14 and is starting to try and figure out what it takes, what it means to be a decent human being, a decent grown person in this world. I'm going to hand him a copy of All the Pretty Horses and a copy of Cool Hand Luke. And I'm going to say, there you go.
There you go.
That's all you need. If you can understand these, you're good. So number 1, Cool Hand Luke versus God.
All right. So as we like to do at the end of the podcast, we're going to quickly run down what our lists were. So I'll kick us off. All right. At number 10, I have Chuck Rhodes and Bobby Axelrod from Billions. At number 9, I have Commander Shepard and Saren from Mass Effect. Number 8, I have Professor X and Magneto from the X-Men. Number 7, I have Jack Shepard and John Locke from Lost.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah. At 6, I have Captain Willard and Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now. At number 5, I have the houses Stark and Lannister from Game of Thrones. At number 4, my sticker pick, Beverly and Elliot Mantle from Dead Ringers. Number 3, I have Mozart and Salieri from Amadeus. Number 2, Daniel Plainview and Eli Sunday from There Will Be Blood. And number 1, I went with Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader.
Great list. Really good list.
Thank you, sir.
I like it. All right. So number 10 for me, I have Andrew Neiman and Terrence Fletcher from the movie Whiplash. At number 9, I have the narrator and Sonny from the short story by James Baldwin, Sonny's Blues. At 8, I've got Tommy Shelby and Alfie Solomons from Peaky Blinders, and that is my sticker pick this week.
Nice.
Number 7, I've got Billy Parham and Boyd Parham, brothers from the Cormac McCarthy novel The Crossing. At number 6, I've got Jean Valjean and Javert from the Victor Hugo novel or the Broadway play musical Les Miserables. At number 5, I have Jay Gatsby and Tom Buchanan from F. Scott Fitzgerald's novel The Great Gatsby. At number 4, I have Walter White and Hank Schrader from Breaking Bad. At number 3, I have Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader from the Star Wars trilogy. At number 2, I have Jack Shepard and John Locke from the television show Lost. And at number 1, from the film Cool Hand Luke, I have Luke and God.
All right, I like it. That is our top 10 fictional rivalries.
That was a good list. I liked it.
That turned out well.
I think you had a lot of stuff there that sounded interesting to me that I hadn't seen before.
Oh, good. Back at you. Yeah. We're going to have to catch up with each other.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So I guess nothing left but to talk about what we're doing next week.
All right. On to next week's topic.
All right. So now it's time to go ahead and reveal and talk about what our topic is going to be for next week. I think this is going to be our first top 5 so far.
Yeah, first top 5. Should be interesting. The topic's a good one. We're going to try the top 5 thing kind of in the interest of time, but also because this is a little bit of a challenging topic.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it, and I don't know if I would be able to even do a top 10. So, yeah, we're going to go top 5, and we're going back into your, area of expertise. We're going back to some books.
Purview.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call these books my area of expertise,
well, yeah.
But, we're in the, I was just about to say we're in the literary realm, but I'm going to walk that one back. We're dealing with things that are between paper covers.
It's things scribbled onto paper. Why don't you go ahead and announce the official title?
All right, so our official first top 5 lists is going to be your top 5 airport paperbacks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess the first thing we got to hammer out is what we mean by airport paperbacks.
Shitty book.
Well, yeah. I think in general, I take that to mean more of like a page turner kind of, entertaining book that you're on vacation, you finish the book you brought, and you're flying home, and you got to get something. So you go into the airport bookstore and you just, pick something for, something to do on the flight, right?
Yeah, I like to think of these as palate cleansers. For me, it's if you've been reading literature or some heavy nonfiction, something like that, and then every once in a while I like to throw sort of one of those thrillers or, like you said, a page turner in there to kind of just have a little fun, relax a little bit. I consider it the literary equivalent of the summer movie.
Yeah, okay. Now, I think, just thinking back on my own life experiences, in an airport bookstore, I have bought some literary things.
Right. No.
Are those still okay? Or
I see. I was wondering this too, because I was starting to think to myself, okay, do we have to have actually bought it and read it in an airport? Or are we just talking about the actual
just the idea
concept of it? And I think that we're talking about the concept of it, which
I agree.
To me, if we're talking about the concept of an airport paperback, then I would leave out anything more literary, just to remain within the spirit of that.
Yeah, I have in mind maybe a few that are sort of in that middle ground. It's not like, super high level literature, but it's maybe a little bit more than, the authors who spit out 100 books a year type of quality. Are those okay?
I think so. I mean, I think I know the type of book that you're talking about. I'm not opposed to that being on there. The reality is,
I think that would qualify as an airport paperback.
Yeah,
right?
You'll find works of literature in an airport, but you're not going to find your biggest and deepest works of literature. You're going to find the ones that have literary elements that are a little bit on the nose, maybe. But like you said, from those authors who kind of produce quite a bit of work.
Right.
But I'm not opposed.
Okay. Well, I think that's what we mean. We mean any type of book that's sort of just more of a lighter read, but it doesn't have to be super light.
Yeah. Something you would pick up for entertainment that's not War and Peace.
Gotcha. All right. All right. So that's going to be our list next week. The top 5 airport paperbacks. And yeah, I'm going to have to start racking my brain immediately. This is going to be hard.
Yeah, this is one I feel like I'm going to want some listener feedback and help on, because just thinking about it right off the top of my head, I'm feeling I'm just looking into the void here.
Yeah. Well, this will be interesting. Tune in next week. Hopefully we have an episode.
Could just be a lot of white noise for an hour and a half.
Or it could be 15 seconds. Yeah, we got nothing. Bye.
See you next week when we have a real topic.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll find out together.
Sounds good.
And I guess that does it for this episode. Thanks again for listening to us, and hope to see you next week.
And thank you to everyone who's taken the time to go on and leave us a rating and a review. It's been tremendously helpful. We hope that keeps up. Thank you for listening. Until next week.
See you then.